I think the real value from these conferences or these meetups is being here with people in your local community also in the same space like you, like in blockchain, right? Because sometimes people stay online too much and don't really go out. Because I told you, right, from when I went to my first conference, that's when things really changed, right? And I know Uganda is doing so many big things in blockchain, right? So we actually have some all-star guests here. So I would like to have them please come up here and join us. So we have Andrew Kibedi. Oh, Kwame. Okay, all right. We have Kwame, who is with the Uganda Blockchain Association. I've been told. This is my first time meeting Kwame as well. Welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, and then we have, I think, yeah, here's fine. We have the CEO of CoinPesa, Sule. Is that how you say it? Sule? Okay. They're a crypto exchange here. Here, come over here. Oh, sorry. We have Andrew here as well. Andrew with CoIT, a blockchain startup here in Uganda. Right. So this is going to be a panel discussion. So I think I'll just start with a initial discussion with our guests here about the space here in Uganda. And then we'll open the floor up for questions. Right. Q&A, AMA. Any questions you have for them or for me, feel free to ask.
Yes.
So tell us about the blockchain space in your perspective here in Uganda.
Okay, first of all, before I start to say anything about that, I have to present myself. My name. Sorry, my voice. I have a virus. It's not contagious, but it's not my. It's not, people don't run out. It's not Ebola. These kind of things. My name is Andrew Kibedi. I'm a Ugandan like him, but I left the country with my father in 1976. So if he understands Lusoga and Luganda, I don't. I can greet. But I'm a Ugandan, and I'm like him, coming back to help Uganda in some form. I not just come here for holidays. So I travel a lot, like he does. This year I realized I've been traveling for about 150 days. Last year was 260 days. So the airlines makes a lot of money on me. But yes.
Thank you. Okay, yeah, so let's have everybody here just do quick intros.
Yeah, Ian, good to meet you. My name is Kwame, and I'm with the Blockchain Association of Uganda, which I lead, and I see a couple of other members here. I'm actually really delighted to, both attend this event, but also to meet you. After the ads went around, I began, reading a little bit more and, reading about your token metrics. And I just think it's amazing that we have, a Ugandan in the diaspora trailblazing, and now coming home, to give back, coming back to spend time with us here at home. And I think that's a great thing. And I'm told from here you're going to Egypt and many other places.
Kenya, and then South Africa, and then Ghana, Nigeria.
Good. Now, we're told that charity begins at home. And I would like to ask that you spend a little more time at home. This community, we all need the knowledge that you've been able to garner. And I think that we can use your knowledge, your energy, your momentum to, marshal whatever groundwork that has been done here, such that we can actually lift up the relevance of Uganda in this global blockchain space. I've been involved. I have a background in tech, so like many, you sort of first stumble upon Bitcoin, and then you gradually move from one thing to another. And when I got to see what was happening in the rest of the world, particularly the Western world, seeing how much time, energy, and resources are being invested in blockchain and of course the other 4 IRs, but blockchain in particular, I came home with a group of friends and said, we have to shake the system. We have to get things off the ground. And I was able to connect with many of the the friends in here, Sule and many others, and we are making a contribution. Would love to hold hands with yourselves. I think that it's a great opportunity. It's a great time in history, and I think we can actually make a real difference.
It has never been very easy to speak after Kwame, but I'll try. My name is Suleiman Murunga. I'm the CEO of CoinPesa. I have my background is in mobile money. Uganda is one of the leaders in mobile money. And when I finally looked into blockchain seriously, I realized this was the next evolution of finance and practically everything. And so that's how we came together with my team to set up a Ugandan exchange because I believed since we were already leading as a region, we might as well also build our own technology and put it out there. So I'm glad, Ian, you've come here, and we're excited to see what kind of publicity and engagement we can have moving forward as a community.
Yeah, I mean, even me, as I've been traveling the world, I've been hearing so many good things about Uganda, right? I mean, as you guys know, Binance now has an exchange here, right? A fiat exchange, right? And as you guys know, I'm a KuCoin global ambassador. So I think we definitely have to have a conversation. All right, so now tell us about the blockchain space here, right? From your experience and where it is now, where you think it's going.
My experience with blockchain, as you elegantly said, is that it's going to revolutionize the internet. And what I've done and are still doing and actually introducing, how many people know about UPMB, Uganda Protestant Medical Bureau? Uganda Protestant Medical Bureau, UPMB. No, that's the technical arm of the Protestant church in this country. They run like almost 300 hospitals and clinics. Through that space, I've developed a software based on blockchain to make it easier for you as patients to control your own data. That means your medical journals, everything is based on blockchain. We also developed a token, meaning that if we are having, for instance, Pfizer wants to sell any medicine through joint medical store, they have to use our token, which that's what we call a utility token, and you cannot speculate in it, to make it easier to lose that fluctuation with dollars versus shillings, but also that you can control that people don't steal medicine, because that is also, I know that through different clinics and hospitals, just ask people at Mulago. My experience with blockchain in this country, even though it still is a theory, but we want to also showcase through Uganda as when I met the Prime Minister earlier this year, and he said, if this works, your software works within the medical field, Uganda will be the most advanced country when it comes to in the medical space using software. Everybody will look at us, and I'm very proud for that.
Very nice, very nice. And how about you, Kwame?
Sure. Now, I will talk about it in two perspectives. What's happening on the public sector side and then private sector. And because I've been involved, I've had the privilege of following the trends. Starting with the private sector. There's a burgeoning, there's an exciting, there's a dynamic private sector in a fintech community here. Mm-hmm. Now, places like Kenya are slightly ahead of us, but in Uganda, it is clear that there's great dynamism. A lot of this community is deeply exploring what blockchain means and what it means for the particular sectors. I've spent time with guys looking at all sorts of solutions, whether it's with in the health sector, agriculture, refugees, etc. I met a group of Ugandans recently who are developing a stablecoin tethered to to the Uganda shilling. So there's all sorts of ideas, all sorts of activity that is being all sorts of great things that are being tried. I know guys that are trying to do ICOs, and the regulators are all trying to understand what this means. So there's a dynamic private sector, which is a great thing. And as we all know, we have a large young population, many well-educated and dynamic people looking for what to do. So blockchain and crypto presents an amazing opportunity. Now, on the public sector side, this is also what has been very interesting, because after we had the blockchain conference earlier in the year, which Michael and Sula and a few of us were involved with, the Ministry of ICT said they were going to set up a national task force. And this is a great thing, and the timing is ideal because Kenya's national task force has just finished its report that's going to be made public shortly. And the Uganda National Task Force on Blockchain and 4IR is also just about to be announced. Now, that's a good thing because this task force is going to put in place the appropriate policy framework with which Uganda will engage with these technologies. So that's one major aspect. A second major aspect on the public sector side is that our central bank has set up a working group, a blockchain working group. And that's another very good thing because central banks world over are trying to figure out how do we deal with this thing? How do we deal with this animal? Which could likely replace some of the roles that we're doing and so on. So there's a lot of concern, but it's great that our own central bank has not, stuck its head in the sand and, had an attitude of let's see what happens. But rather, let us engage with this thing. Let us learn. Let us be inquisitive. Let us see what we can do as Uganda. That's the central bank. I know that our Capital Markets Authority, our Uganda Communications Commission, these are all the regulators in this industry, are setting up sandboxes because they're trying to understand what does this mean. And these are results of nudges from the teams here, the private sector. Many people are applying to Capital Markets Authority and saying we want a license, but they say, but how do we? There's no framework for licensing. And their response is to set up a sandbox. So the fact that we have regulators, public sector leaders who are interested in this space is a very good thing for us. The fact that we have a thriving, dynamic private sector is a great thing for us. And I believe that this translates into immediate, visible action. For instance, today we are gathered because Ian Balina is in town. 2 days from now, the team from Consensus, will be here. And so there's a series of these things that are happening, both on the private sector side and public. And this gives me great optimism about the future of blockchain in Uganda.
My experience has really been from a ground level, being a fiat exchange and being the gateway for many to experience crypto for the first time and basically interact with this new currency and this new asset. It has been very interesting because the kind of activity that we've been able to see, right? There's been a flurry of activity. People, so many different types of use cases are coming up. People are using this for remittances. People are using this for savings. I mean, I have some users who consistently, on a bi-weekly or weekly or daily basis, are saving, making crypto purchases of $10, $20. And so I see this new technology and this new asset class really opening up a whole entire industry, things that people never thought of before, enabling people to access capital markets and financial services on a global scale like never before. And so it's very encouraging to see the kind of activity that our regulator and the private sector is doing so that people can actually get financially included. I like to say that since we've been leading in mobile money and mobile financial services, that has actually led to financial inclusion to a certain level. But cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology is actually going to usher in what I like to call financial inclusion 2.0, whereas the first level of financial inclusion was enabling people to get access to mobile financial services or financial services. But then once they have access to these financial services, they have access to maybe banking or paying bills. What next? If you don't have money to bank, what is the point of having a bank account? But with cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology, people now have the ability to finally make money through digital financial means, right? You have a digital asset that can actually enable you to make an income. And so this is the kind of activity we're seeing on the ground level, and it's actually very encouraging.
Okay. All right. So, Andrew, tell us about the project you're working on, Core IT.
Long story short, because that will take a day. It started all with that I'm building a hospital in Ibanda in Rwenzori, not Ibanda County, it's Ibanda in Kasese. And through that work, I was looking at software in general, because I'm not a medical person by profession. I invest, and my background is not. I am not a medical person as a background. What I discovered through that project was, like, for instance, there are 30,000 patients per 30,000 patients per doctor in this country. There are about 100,000 patients per nurse. And I was like, how do if I open this hospital, people are going to pour in from, we are so close to Congo, etc. How do I structure that in a simple way? That means also medical journals, booking appointments. How do we do payments? What do I do with that patient? If yes, he's in Uganda, but gets injured in Kampala or in Mbale, etc., how do we verify that person that is actually has the means to pay because he has an village insurance, or because he's not nobody here carries around the medical journal because you don't expect him to get injured, so you're not carrying that. So then I said, how do I digitalize that? So I started off with checking all these different software companies around the world, and some said, oh, it's fantastic, but we are Norwegians, we don't have it in English, or we are German, we don't have it in English XYZ, or we're not even interested in being on the continent. So stubborn as I am, I said, I'm going to build this software, and which I've done, and I almost finished, because it's a very, very big elephant, which we don't have time to talk about it now, but for us, with my company, together with the Protestant church, they looked at it because I asked them also, how many softwares do you log in and log out of every day if you are one of the big hospitals within Uganda Protestant Medical Bureau? And they said, in average, we have about 10 softwares. And that is very hard when you know, for people, especially if you go to rural areas and you're going all the way down to health center 2s, even though they're going to be closed, but then you have trouble to find people who are what we call computer literate. That doesn't mean that you can, I'm a computer expert because I can switch it off and off, or a mobile phone, or switch off and on a laptop. So the challenge has been that how can we minimize the software tangle within hospitals or medical facilities, and that's what we're doing with this blockchain, is to not necessarily eradicate everybody else, but make it easier for the patients like you guys. You have all your information on your mobile phone, and then same for the doctors and nurses and village health teams. They also access the information through their mobile phones. There's no more carrying of computers or tablets, etc. The exciting thing, when you say M-Pesa, what I've seen and what I like with Uganda or East Africa, the adaptation for new technology is much quicker than in Europe. Yes, we have all the money, yes, we have the latest iPhone, but we don't really use it. We're still the only call and that stuff. So when I say to people in Europe, I can actually pay my bills through my mobile phone, my utility bills, etc. And that is even people who are in the bush, in the villages, are so far ahead in using their mobile phone for day-to-day use. So me introducing blockchain through this medical field was much easier here than if I go to UK or if I go to the States, if I go to Norway, even though they have all the necessities. So, like it or not, might end up in my database.
So Kwame, tell us, what does the Uganda Blockchain Association do? And what things are you currently working on here?
I'll speak both about what we do as a company and then what the association does, the Blockchain Association of Uganda. So as a company, I work with a company called Crypto Savannah, and it's a technology business that focuses on three things mainly: training, solutions, and advisory. And we're doing several projects on the, we have a lot going on the solution side, and training is another major component of ours. So we want to begin an academy beginning of next year where we can, train people in blockchain development. We want to create an army of blockchain developers here in Uganda. We believe it's a great opportunity because a lack of talent is a global problem in this blockchain space. And then we're developing, several solutions. We've done some for the private sector and for the public sector. Many people want to see what this thing means for them. So we're doing proofs of concept. And I also have a particular interest on, the social enterprise side. And so we're doing a few projects around. We're about to begin one on the relief side. We had a disaster in Uganda, in the eastern part of the country. And we are, want to start a project there in Bududa. So there's a series of projects that we are involved with that have a blockchain and crypto component to them. Then on the association side, the association is a young one. It was started by a couple of companies, and it's a member-based organization. blockchain uganda.org is the association website. And what we do is that we spread knowledge and understanding of what this blockchain thing means and the opportunity that it presents. And we also work hard to streamline the industry. It's been an industry that has been dogged by schemers and scammers, and so want to make sure to give the correct line, the correct understanding. And these schemers and scammers' point was evident just a few days ago. There was a debate in Parliament, and the debate was around banning Ponzi schemes. And it was interesting to listen to that debate because people couldn't tell the difference between a Ponzi scheme, a cryptocurrency, and blockchain. And it took the intervention of a few who had been enlightened, thank God, that were able to, say that not all these things are Ponzi schemes. Otherwise, we'd all be suffering. But as the association, we want to make sure that we can really streamline and let people realize that not everything is a scam, and these are the scammers, and this is the real deal. And that is critical. That is critical because, you see, if we in Uganda do not quickly do that, then we'll all be branded scammers. And the problem with that is that then the opportunity that blockchain and crypto presents could easily leave us behind. So we want to quickly make sure that there's a correct understanding. And in line with that, we're able to organize a pretty large event earlier in the year, which was the largest blockchain conference in Africa that happened in May, and had about 30 countries. About 32 countries represented, and it was quite a big deal. It was a big deal that we had this event, and the head of state was here, and a former head of state of another country was here. And this was really good because for the next 3, 4, 5 months, if one searched blockchain Africa, those two words, Africa and blockchain, on the website, all 10 hits would be about Uganda, Uganda, Uganda. So that lifted us up, and we're planning for another one next year to talk again about blockchain and the entire 4IR ecosystem. So as the association, there's a lot that is going on along those lines. And it's a membership-based association. And for those who want to join, you can just go to the website, and there's an application form there, etc. Thank you.
It's very interesting what Kwame just said, because one of those challenges within the Protestant church, I also have that discussion with the Catholic church as well, because they're also jumping on board, is that some of these individuals in administration for those two associations, they're actually being scammed when it comes to this one coin. So it was wow. So I have also had an upward battle to say no. Blockchain is one thing, crypto is another thing, and is another. So as he correctly said that they cannot distinguish those three different things: Ponzi scheme, currency, etc. So we, as he said correctly, we are in the forefront to grab this opportunity. To say finally again, because we brand ourselves as a pearl of Africa, etc., and everybody who comes here as a tourist, etc., loves this country. And that's also what made it so exciting to do this project here in Uganda, and really put us back on the map. It says that not everybody has HIV. We're not just savages. Yes, we have clothes, etc. But we're doing also fantastic things with technology, especially now when blockchain still is, as you say, 5 to 10 years kind of thing, where we really see in a global scale the effects of what blockchain can do. But again, as Kwame says, and I love his assertion that you are educating people on the ground, and not just tech people, but also the people on the ground. What is actually this? Because I see that with the government officials I meet. Oh, are you sure? And then you hear one coin again. So it's good that you also hear here, and it's good that you hear that, because I don't want to be there's no snow here, but I don't want to be the leveler. It's that easier to be more than one leveler on the ground.
Absolutely.
Make it easier. Yeah.
All right. So tell us about CoinPesa and the story behind it and what you guys are building.
So CoinPesa pretty much started during the bull run, right? I mean, like everything else. I think crypto had maybe 2 companies in January 2017, and by the end of the year, there were like 400,000 companies around the world. But yeah, so basically, myself and my fellow co-founders and team joined crypto seriously during the bull run. And one of the challenges we had was buying crypto. We had Uganda shillings, but getting this crypto. I mean, everyone else who would give you this crypto would give you at a markup. During December, there was a dip, the famous December dip, and I had my money, and I wanted to buy crypto. I almost came to tears because the cheapest crypto was 60% markup. 60%, and I had no other choice but to buy it, right? And according to my blockfolio, I'm still in a loss, but that's a story for another day, right? And so we were together with my team, were doing over-the-counter trades for people, you know, sourcing this crypto for them wherever we could, and we decided, you know what, we have the technical expertise to do this. Let's put together something. Let us give people, ourselves as well as our countrymen and basically continent fellow people, the opportunity to join this revolution, because once we understood that this is actually a digital asset, right, and something that can bring financial inclusion to the rest of the world, it became a mission to actually allow this to propagate across everybody, right? And so our core mission became, let's build the best fiat gateway and enable anyone, anywhere to access this digital asset, right? And so together with that mission, we also had to do the education, right? Because like you've said, and like many people here know, OneCoin has the best marketing after Coca-Cola. I mean, those guys, anywhere in the country you go, they're all over the place. And so we really had to do that work, you know, enabling people to understand, look, this is what a cryptocurrency is. You need to look for this. If it's not on CoinMarketCap, if you don't have a blockchain explorer, if you don't have this, just don't even touch it. And so we've been trying to do the education. We've been giving people access. I think we're the first exchange in East Africa, fiat gateway, to give people access to Bitcoin Cash, and Ethereum. That was received very well in the market. And we're basically just trying to grow this community and as well as drive adoption, right? Because 2017 was all about speculation and basically getting into the game, but then what next, right? And so that's the kind of activity we're doing.
Now, okay, thank you for that. Now, I want to stick with you two for a minute. Now, going back to exchanges, right? What's the exchange landscape like right now? Because, I mean, one of the biggest exchange in the world, Binance, now has offices here. And I believe you guys were involved in that, right? I think Kwame or your company was involved in that. So why did Binance choose Uganda? What did they see in Uganda specifically?
Okay, I'll go first. What I would say is Uganda has a very liberal financial market, right? We're very receptive, we're very forward-thinking, and that was very evident with the mobile money industry. Mobile money until today is not regulated, but mobile money basically pushes 40% of the country's GDP, right? Goes through that annually. And so the only way mobile money got to where it was because the government gave it an open book and said, we'll not regulate you, we shall use the banks to provide you with guidelines, but grow as you will. And so that same thinking has been forwarded to the cryptocurrency companies, you know. They've been given that leeway to operate, and the government is looking into how they are operating in order to create a environment that is conducive for them. And so when the CEO of Binance came down, I think Kwame can give us a clearer picture on that. I think he realized how liberal this market is and decided to come in. And so the crypto market basically has a couple of exchanges, which include CoinPesa, Binance. We have players from Nairobi, BitPesa. Local Bitcoins is also here, like they are everywhere because of the easy access. And a very large majority, I would say, still does peer-to-peer trade. So there are all these WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups all over the place, and people are just buying and selling within themselves. And so it is coming to maturity, but it's growing very fast.
Was CoinPesa the first exchange in East Africa?
CoinPesa was not the first, but we were the first to have the 3 currencies.
Who else here has built an exchange? Let's see. Of course, it's a bit too big. Has anyone else built an exchange? Was it before CoinPesa? Before? After? So it is clear that there is activity in the market. And just like what Sule clearly articulated, I believe these were the reasons that drove Binance and CZ to be able to come to Uganda. It's interesting, and I'd like to encourage anyone to look up CZ's speech at the blockchain conference. It was a powerful speech, and it's publicly available on YouTube. Just take a look at it, and you'll hear the mind of a leading CEO and the way he sees Africa and the future for us in this new industry. It's something that I'd like to encourage all of us to look at. And I believe that, on the one hand, this is someone who sees an opportunity and sees a lot of potential as well. Many people are looking to Africa as the last frontier, as the next frontier. And if you see, series after series, Harvard has recently released a report talking about growth over the next 10 years, and it says Uganda's #1, India's #2, and Tanzania. So there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of projections globally that are being seen on the future of this nation, a lot of predictive analytics that show where global interest is going to be. And we happen to be privileged to be at the center of that focus globally. So I would say that is, another of the reasons that probably Binance, CZ, and other investors have in mind. And I think just to supplement this point, it's worth noting that like any leader, like any market leader, people tend to follow leaders. Where a leader goes, many others follow. So it's not accidental, it's not by surprise that we will be hearing of many other crypto exchanges that will be coming, that will be looking into Uganda. And this is evident when you speak to people in the regulatory space. They're being approached by exchanges from around the world, asking how does one get a license? How does one operate in Uganda? What does one do? And it's in response to these, like I mentioned earlier, that sandboxes and so on are being set up because people want to understand and to experiment. So I just mentioned that to supplement on what Sule was saying, but also to highlight the fact that it's great when we can attract leaders here, because the natural response of society is to follow leaders.
Very well. Very good. Thank you. Okay, so speaking of that, I want to go to the same point, right? So in the same manner how Uganda and how liberal it is has brought in the biggest exchange in the world, Binance, and the CEO here, right? You're also from England, Norway, and you came all the way here to Uganda, right? So what pulled you in? What attracted you? And what's it like doing business here in Uganda versus other parts of Africa?
Don't let me get started.
That's why I asked the question.
Interesting question. I by trade, I trade a lot of commodities. Coffee is my #1 thing, and I export a lot to the US. That's one of the reasons also I live in New York. It's very interesting doing business in Uganda because you have that we call informal economy, and you have the formal economy. The formal economy is then you're paying things through a bank, and you only deal with people with TIN numbers. But when I looked at the numbers, how many actually has a TIN number, that means they're actually registered. So you can collect your VAT or whatever. Uganda is very low. Then it's easier to be in Nigeria, it's easier to be in Kenya, it's easier to be in where? Definitely Rwanda or South Africa. But in any way you slice that cake, just food is my big thing. When I read the reports from the UN saying that Uganda is the food basket of the world, that makes me proud. But still I don't understand. They can come up with a report. When I go to my farms around the country, even as close as Mitiana, you see people are very informal in how they do trade. That makes it also harder for export, because if you want to sell something in Europe, you have to have these ISO standards. And if you ask a farmer who cannot read and write, he cannot fill out a 10-pager to verify if this product so we'll use a Jewish word, kosher. And that's what I see with doing business here with blockchain, with people can use cryptocurrency, etc. It will be easier for foreign investors, but also people who do trade here, that it's easier to control everything. But the adaptation of the technology, etc., that's what I find is much easier in Uganda than in South Africa or in Nigeria or other places, or even in North Africa, who's closer to Europe than Uganda is. But they're further ahead, further behind us in terms of doing international trade. I don't know if I answered the question the way you wanted it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.